Hello and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us to this session today. The topic is bringing the sharing economy to SAP. Obviously a very interesting and very timely topic, and it's presented by Paul Ovigele, my good friend and consultant extraordinaire. Paul has over 20 years in the SAP consulting world. He's also a author of several best-selling SAP books. And you've probably seen him as a speaker at many national SAP conferences already, and the list just goes on and on. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. Did I introduce you right?
Yeah, very good. Maybe overdone it, but I like that.
All right, well, take it away, Paul.
Thank you very much, Tom. Hello, everyone. As Tom said, my name is Paul Ovigele, and I'm going to be talking about bringing the sharing economy to SAP, and this presentation is going to lead into an online platform that I started. So first we'll talk about the sharing economy, then we'll talk about the current state of the SAP industry, we'll talk about this platform I started called ERPfixers, then we'll have a quick summary. So what is the sharing economy? The sharing economy is a peer-to-peer based sharing of goods and services across an online platform. It's also known as the gig economy or collaborative consumption. It also goes with several other names, and the names don't really matter. What's important is that it's hard to live in society today without having come across one sharing economy platform or the other. Why is it happening right now? Why is the sharing economy happening right now? First is because of the advances in information technology, and almost predominantly the internet is what leads the game in that manner. The internet allows us to have easy access to information regardless of where that information is sourced from. The second thing is social media. Social media actually takes what the internet has and from a sharing perspective takes it to a whole other level, because you now have multiple people communicating on multiple different platforms. And when I talk about social media, it's not just the technological tool of social media, but actually the mindset of people of wanting to share information, photos, videos, skills, and all the other things. Then the third thing is mobile technology. What mobile technology does is allow for convenience, convenient communication, convenient interaction of information. And that also boosts the sharing of this information across platforms. The advantages of the sharing model. So firstly, it reduces transaction costs by utilizing technology. Now that's pretty self-explanatory, but if you need further explanation, you know that if you can do something, if you can hire somebody or access information easily online, it reduces the amount you have to spend on going through some kind of more physical transaction with all the hurdles that come with that. Entrepreneurs working together. Now, with the sharing economy, it's very easy to connect people in the same space, whether it's the same virtual workspace or same mindset or ideology or same values. You can bring them all together with the sharing model. Thirdly, it allows you to work on your own terms. Before the sharing model, you had to rely on, a fixed employer or fixed couple of employers, but now you have access to potential work without having to go through these hoops. There are some disadvantages of the sharing model. The first is regulatory issues. Now, I'm sure we've all heard about some of the issues that Uber and Airbnb are having with regulation in certain countries, or in the US, certain states. Now, I think that these regulatory issues are coming about just because the law hasn't caught up with technology. I think it happened even when the internet started, it was hard to regulate how the internet would work across geographical boundaries. So I think this is just something temporary, and at some point in the future, there will be the proper regulations and rules and laws that can govern this process. The second thing is wage degradation, and that is an advantage or a disadvantage depending on what side of the fence you're on. If you're an employer that's looking for quick access to work on an easy-to-use platform, then the fact that you can hire easier than you can do on more traditional models is an advantage. If you're someone who earns a certain amount of money, and just because of the access to people with your skill on more easier platforms, you could find your wages coming down. Hopefully, there's a balancing fact aspect of this, and things will just basically even out, and you will have more wage parity across the board. The third thing is no company benefits. If your sharing model is based on employment, then obviously it's a different type of employment, and one which doesn't lend itself to having company benefits. Some successful sharing economy models, and I say successful, but really they're successful, and they're models and companies that are in the public spotlight. So obviously we have Uber, which is a huge taxi service sharing platform. We have TaskRabbit, where you can, if you have skills, odd jobs that you can do, you can be connected with someone who needs those skills. Airbnb is a hotel or accommodation type of service, and Lyft. So different industries, taxi service, odd jobs, accommodation, but all with that one central theme, that it is connecting people with a need with people who can satisfy the need. So what is the current state of the SAP industry? In the SAP industry, we have a few stats which I got predominantly from a book called SAP Nation. And I think if you have been in the SAP field for a while, these numbers, even though they initially seem astounding, when you think about your experience in the SAP industry or people you've spoken to, you'll find that they make sense. So SAP has about 250,000 customers worldwide. SAP customers spend about $2 billion in total on SAP-related things. Now, of that $2 billion, $6 billion is spent a year, approximately, on consultant travel costs alone. And why is that? That's because most of the costs that companies spend on SAP goes to labor, right? And this 70% of costs spent on labor was something which initially surprised me. But then when I thought about it, thought about my experience, thought about companies I've worked with, it totally makes sense. It's not the licensing fee that's really burning the budget. It's really what you're spending on support, on consulting, on all those other things that come with trying to get the right expertise. I mean, just to give a crazy figure, $1 trillion has been spent on SAP since the recession in 2009. So what are the options that a typical company goes through for acquiring SAP expertise? The first is you'll search for an answer on an SAP forum. You go into Google, you type in what your SAP issue is, and then you come up with or do not come up with an answer. The second is you hire a recruitment agency to try to you have in your company. The third is just you use an SAP consulting firm. Now these options are not hierarchical. In fact, if anything, they go from bottom to top when it from a timeline, historical timeline basis. When I started SAP, and this was in the 90s, only SAP consulting firms had access to SAP expertise. And then I would say maybe late 90s, early 2000, recruitment agencies started to fill the field. And you could go to a recruitment agency like you could for anything else and hire SAP people on that basis. Nowadays, there's a lot of use of SAP forums. Even if you don't post your question on the forum, you at least search for answers on the forums. So those are some ways, not all the ways, but some major ways of acquiring SAP expertise. Now, the weakness of this traditional consulting model is, first of all, there's uneven distribution of knowledge within SAP's ecosystem. For example, if you hire a consulting firm or you hire a recruitment agency, you have no guarantee that the knowledge that you want exists in that agency, in the agency's resource or in the consulting firm's employee. You have no, even if they say they have the skill level, there's no way of verifying this, and in most cases, it's after the fact that you realize that you didn't get the right skill level that you need. Okay. Secondly, there's a monopoly by these recruitment agencies or consulting firms of talent and knowledge. And that's because you sometimes are at their mercy. You have no choice. In most cases, if an SAP customer, a company, wants access to expertise, it's because they don't have the skill level, the in-house skill level about that expertise. And it also means that if a consultant is presented to them, there's no real way of validating that they have that expertise. So they're really at the mercy of the firms that provide this talent. The third is there's no formal response guideline when you use SAP forums. I think SAP forums are great. They're miles ahead of when I started SAP, where there was no way of getting information. But there's really no response guidelines. You could post an issue today on a forum and not get, well, if you're lucky to get an answer, it might not be for a few weeks. And if you get an answer, it might be a half answer. It might be someone who's spending their time to help you, but don't have the time to see it through to its closure. So there's no real rules guiding that. It's more like a free-for-all system. And then costs do not correlate with gain. So the costs I'm talking about is the cost of paying a recruitment agency or paying a consulting firm, or the time cost of going through these SAP forums trying to look for answers. And these could take hours, and you may come up with nothing. Now, although I say these are weaknesses, I still think it's necessary to have the consulting firms, the recruitment agencies, and the forums. They are necessary. They're actually providing value. It just doesn't go all the way. Now, the ERPfixers platform is what we're going to talk about next. This is the platform I started a few months ago. And I started it because of what I've spoken about in the earlier slides, which is we are in a sharing economy society, in fact, world. We're in a sharing economy world, right? And then, but in the industry I work in, that concept has not really caught on. We still have too much disparity of knowledge. There's pockets of knowledge all over the place. They don't come together. And over my years in working, almost a couple of decades working in the SAP field, I consistently hear the same thing about not having access to the knowledge, even though the customers paid so much money for the system. What is ERPfixers? So it's an online platform that quickly connects SAP customers with carefully selected experts to find fixes for their system problems. How does it work? So first, customers, so people who need help, post requests in the relevant SAP module. Then these requests are matched with experts, they are called fixers, who specialize in that module. And these fixers assist in solving the issue or completing the task that's been assigned to them. Examples of requests are, how do I add a new field to a report? I need help with debugging a program. Provide step-by-step instructions on a specific SAP process. Troubleshooting an issue, or requesting for information on a new SAP functionality. So these issues are not just questions that you have or errors, that any task that you need carried out that you don't have time to do yourself. The modules that we cover all the modules in SAP, and we are constantly evolving to keep up with the changes that SAP is going through. I mean, they're now splitting modules up or consolidating them or coming up with new modules, a new platform. So we're constantly trying to change to meet that need. So I have a short demo, about a couple of minutes, to show on how the ERPfixers platform works from a member's point of view, meaning from the point of view of someone who needs SAP help or support. So when you're a member, the first thing you do obviously is to sign up, and then when you get your username, which is your email, you can go back in and put that in and your password. You have a dashboard, and the dashboard is where you post your requests. That's the new issues you want. You post requests based on how many credits you have. So 1 credit equals 1 request. When you post a request, the first thing you do is select the category that the request belongs in. So what SAP module or sub-module does this request belong to? Okay, you can either check the box or the number of boxes there for which modules they belong to, or you can use a smart search and just type in a few letters, and it'll give you the modules available that meet those letters. Then you type the issue that your request relates to. Just you type the title of the issue, which is, you have a 100-word limit, and then you actually type in more detail about the issue. You can type it in, or you can copy and paste it from somewhere else, from Word or from an email, just to give a little more information about what it is that you're trying to resolve. When you do this, you have a 500 word limit. If you have many more words or pictures or videos, you can upload it with it. You save it as an attachment and just upload it. You can send the information to all fixers, or you can send it to specific fixers by searching for their name and just select them on that basis. You can actually send it to multiple fixers, so you only want 5 fixers to get this request. In this case, we'll just leave it open to all the fixers that are available that have that module as their specialist area. So now once you've done that, all the fixers will get an email in their inbox where they can claim the issue. Once a fixer has claimed the issue moves from the unclaimed tab, which we're on, to an in progress tab. So once it's in the in progress tab, it means that someone is working on the issue. So this says started working on the right hand side. And from there you can start communicating with the fixer using the chat functionality within the application. Now, as you can see on the top right, you can also use screen sharing tools like Join Me or TeamViewer if you want the fixer to see your screen. Okay, so every time you communicate with the fixer, you can communicate with text. You can also add attachments and send that to them. Okay. Then when the fixer gets it, the fixer will get an email, and they can respond by going into the application, and then they respond to you, and you get an email. Unless if you don't want an email, you can turn that off in your profile, but it helps to have an email. If they fix the issue, you can either click on Fixed and rank the fixer to show that you're happy with the response, or you can reassign the request to other fixers or another specific fixer. So that was just a short demo on the use of the ERPfixers platform. Now I'll just go back to the summary. We now just have the summary of the presentation, and that is basically how to sign up. So to sign up for the ERPfixers platform, you can sign up as a member using the ERPfixers.com member sign up link, or you can sign up as a fixer using the ERPfixer sign up link. Now, for everybody who signs up that has attended the webinar can actually sign up and get a free request. So you get 1 credit that you can use on the ERPfixers platform with no commitment. You don't need to continue the service after that if you don't want. We're just very confident that any request you post will be solved. And to get that credit, you can send me an email on this Ovigele at ERPfixers.com. And that's the end of my presentation, so I'll welcome any questions.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, there were actually 2 questions that just came in. Somebody asked, on the website, ERPfixers.com, can everybody see all the questions that were posted there?
That's a good question. Now, ERPfixers platform is a little different from your standard forums. In your standard forum, you can, if someone posted, everybody gets to see this. But the best way to see ERPfixers is as a platform. You are actually hiring people on a short-term, very, very minute see what is going on when someone hires someone else to do a job. So the easy answer is we don't have a forum-like approach where you can see every question, but what we do to satisfy this is that any member that wants their request to be published for everyone to see, once they indicate that desire, we will take the request and put it on our blog, on the blog section of our website. So you can't see all requests, but with approval from the members, you can see certain requests.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And one more question here. Can you hire fixers on an hourly basis?
Right now, the platform, if you wanted a request to be solved, you need to buy credit on the platform, and you use that as a basis. So it's not hourly hiring, but we've received that request from several members, and we plan to roll out that functionality in a couple of months.
Okay, all right. Well, that's all the questions we had here. Thank you, Paul, so much for doing this session for us. I think this was very valuable, very interesting, great new platform and concept in the SAP ecosystem. And with that,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for joining, and everybody have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.